Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through some of that noise, pull back the curtain on those headlines that swirl around power, scandal, democracy. It feels, well, overwhelming sometimes, right?
Absolutely. Confusing, maybe even a bit cynical making. You see these stories pop up constantly.
Yeah, whispers about this, questions about that institution, the constant push and pull of power. It's easy to just let it wash over you, like it's all just chaos.
But it isn't, is it? That's what we find when you start tugging at those threads, these surprising connections, patterns, they start to emerge.
Exactly. It reveals a much bigger picture, often one that isn't really being told elsewhere.
And that's our mission today, really. We've taken that stack of sources you sent over, the articles, the research, your notes, and we're aiming to weave these, well, seemingly separate stories together.
Show you how they're not just isolated incidents.
Precisely. They're pieces of a bigger puzzle, a puzzle about influence, about accountability, and crucially, about the boundaries of power today. Where are those lines?
We're here to pull out those key nuggets, those aha moments, so you feel not just informed, but like really clear on what's actually going on.
Right, to help you feel well-versed, clear-eyed.
So to really get a handle on how power works behind the scenes, we're going to start somewhere a little unexpected. It's a strange intersection where elite influence shapes accountability.
Then we'll pivot. Look at the battles over credibility, public trust, how truth itself gets debated, sometimes even weaponized.
Yeah, in the public square. And finally, we'll wrap up with some really fundamental legal challenges. Cases trying to redefine the limits of presidential power, specifically around using the military here at home.
It's going to be quite a journey, definitely eye-opening.
We're here to guide you through it all, every twist and turn.
Okay, so let's kick off this deep dive, where elite influence meets the demand for accountability. This first part, it really shows how status, connections, they're not just social fluff.
No, they become currency, right?
Yeah.
Potent currency in certain circles.
Exactly.
And what's really striking, what jumps out from the sources, is this section we're calling the strange allure of royalty. Status as currency. I mean, think about it.
It's counterintuitive.
Totally. This fascination among certain American right-wing figures with British royalty, I mean, this country fought a revolution to get away from a monarchy.
We literally threw off a king, yeah.
And yet, the material you shared shows this, well, almost fawning admiration. It's not just respecting tradition.
No, the sources suggest something deeper, a deeper connection.
It's not just a cultural quirk either, is it?
Not at all. Looking at the bigger picture, it tells us something. And the specifics from your research really highlight this. You've got Supreme Court justices, like Alito, noted for a curious admiration for old-school Catholic monarchies.
Right. And then there's Trump. His obsession with the royals is, well, legendary almost. Well documented.
And what's crucial here, the key takeaway, is for people like Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, this shared interest wasn't just casual. It was a bonding point. A strategic tool, yeah. For social climbing, it was their gateway into these super high-status networks. Why? For money, influence, and prestige. It's almost transactional.
It gets pretty chilling here, honestly. The sources you shared mentioned Epstein's reported view of Prince Andrew, calling him a useful numbskull.
That's a harsh phrase.
It is, but it just lays bare how cynical and transactional it all was. Epstein's rationale, according to the material, was brutally pragmatic.
Andrew wanted women, wanted money.
And his association let Trump and Epstein draw crowds, gave them this air of aristocratic glamour. It wasn't friendship. It wasn't shared values.
No, it was leveraging status, leveraging access for mutual benefit. And in Epstein's case, obviously, deeply sinister benefit.
This isn't just networking anymore. It's like a hidden economy where merit doesn't matter as much as who you can use.
And which institutions you can potentially undermine in the process.
So who was making these introductions? Who was pulling the strings?
Well, that brings us right to Ghislaine Maxwell, the architect of connections. Her background, as your sources detail, is absolutely key here.
Daughter of Robert Maxwell, the disgraced media tycoon.
Exactly. So she grew up understanding and having access to these elite circles, both sides of the Atlantic. She wasn't trying to break in. She was born into it, knew how to navigate it.
Right. And her role, the material you shared, lays it out meticulously. It was way more than just being Epstein's companion.
Much more. She was, critically, his primary gatekeeper to British high society, leveraging her own long-standing personal connection to Prince Andrew, a connection that, Importantly, started before Epstein became infamous.
So she held the keys.
Yeah.
Made the introductions.
Yes. During what's called the friendship period, that key time when Trump and Epstein were closest, before Epstein's legal troubles blew up around, 2004, 2005?
Right.
Maxwell was busy facilitating introductions, organizing events, helping bring people together. She was the essential social link for the specific, high-stakes network.
Enabling connections that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise.
And if you want a really vivid picture of how these worlds intersected, you just need to look at the Mar-a-Lago snapshot, February 2000. Your sources highlight this.
A really significant moment. A party at Trump's club.
And look who was there. Trump, Melania, his girlfriend, then Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Prince Andrew. All together.
There are those famous photos from that night.
Exactly. You see Trump and Melania beaming with Epstein and Maxwell, projecting power, social status. But other photos show Andrew right there too, mingling, part of the inner circle.
These weren't just casual parties.
No way. For Trump and Epstein, these were calculated, strategic opportunities. Networking, building relationships, projecting that image of power, solidifying their place in the global elite, or so they thought.
So let's unpack the business of status, leveraging connections. What's the real significance here? It seems crystal clear, doesn't it? For Trump, for Epstein, this status obsession wasn't just ego.
No, not just bragging rights. It was fundamentally a business model.
Networking with royalty wasn't a hobby.
It was about generating capital, getting access to people who could fund ventures, invest in projects, open doors to other power players.
A transaction. Calculated. Precise. Social standing equals real influence, real money.
And this brings up that point about the enduring power of royalty, right? Even now. Despite being mostly ceremonial, the royal family is still one of the most potent status symbols in the Western world.
Being seen with a prince, especially one like Andrew, who seemed, well, available.
It sent a clear message: you're in the club. And the perks of that club. They could be measured in cash, influence, maybe just that veneer of legitimacy.
It's a classic example, really. Perceived status translated into real power and access.
But it's crucial to remember Epstein's compartmentalization. Your sources mention how he lived many double lives at the same time.
Right. Maxwell was close, probably knew a lot, but Epstein controlled information meticulously.
Exactly. His world was segmented. Different people knew different parts, often unaware of each other. So even now, the full picture, what he knew, what he did, how deep these ties really went.
It's still incomplete. Hidden by deliberate obfuscation.
But the pattern is undeniable, isn't it? The material highlights it again and again. This was a deliberate exchange of status, resources, and favors, a carefully built web of mutual benefit.
And zooming out, what are the broader implications?
Well, one thing that stands out is how these specific relationships fit a much larger pattern. Powerful people using social climbing as a business strategy.
Trump and Epstein weren't just hanging out with royals for fun.
No, they were leveraging these relationships for influence, legitimacy, capital, and people like Andrew, maybe out of vanity, boredom, or maybe for personal gain.
Made themselves part of the game, perhaps not fully understanding the darker side.
It's a stark reminder. In these elite circles, connections truly are currency. And that royal obsession we see, it's not just being starstruck.
It's about tapping into one of the most enduring brands of power, right? A brand that promises access. A stamp of approval you can convert into real advantage.
Absolutely. The whole saga really forces you to ask, when the powerful seem to play by different rules, what happens to our trust in the systems meant to hold them accountable?
And that leads us perfectly into our next section, the battles over truth.
Yeah.
Starting with something very current, very contentious. The whole Epstein fallout is still unfolding, isn't it? With almost unbelievable speed.
It absolutely is. And one fascinating aspect is watching the Trump scramble. As your research notes, the Trump administration has been making this really messy defense play.
Trying frantically to control the narrative about releasing those Epstein files.
Yeah, sending out surrogates like J.D. Vance, trying to blame the Biden administration for holding things back. But as your sources perfectly put it, that talking point just landed with all the impact of a wet paper bag.
Didn't stick at all.
No traction. And then came the judicial smackdown. Federal Judge Paul Engelmayer in New York. Wow.
He didn't mince words, did he?
Not at all. He slammed the administration, rejected their request to release these paper-thin grand jury transcripts. His message was clear. You're the problem. Release the files.
And he reminded everyone why this matters.
He did. Pointed right to how many victims Ghislaine Maxwell left in her wake emphasized that her conviction for sex trafficking minors is not something to finesse. That's a judge sending a very strong signal about accountability.
But then the real bombshell hit, Maxwell's transfer.
The bombshell transfer, exactly. That left everyone scratching their heads. Maxwell moved to a minimum security prison camp in Texas.
Which is practically unheard of for someone convicted of those kinds of crimes under Bureau of Prisons rules.
Right. It immediately raises flags. Favoritism, political influence, some kind of deal. Because the standard protocols just weren't followed. The rules seem to have been bent.
And then it got even weirder.
Even more eyebrow-raising, as your sources call it. Bureau of Prisons records mark her as eligible for work release.
Just let that sink in. Eligible for work release.
Meaning she could leave the facility to take a job in the community. The image painted is startling. The same woman convicted of trafficking children could technically be serving lattes a few miles from you.
It's surreal. And it sparked immediate outrage, didn't it? Across the board.
Absolutely. And then you had Maxwell's lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, trying to spin it. The lawyer's backfire scenario.
He called the reports fake news.
Aggressively. But, and this is crucial, he didn't actually deny the work release eligibility. He danced around it.
Meanwhile, journalist Allison Gill had the proof.
Had the receipts, yeah. BOP documentation showing Maxwell's sex offender designation had been waived, inexplicably waived.
And that waiver is what allowed the transfer and the work release eligibility.
Exactly. Marcus's non-denial plus Gill's evidence, it just fueled more suspicion, more concern.
Predictably, this triggered serious political pushback.
Oh, yeah. Democrats in the House, the Senate figures like Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, they jumped on it immediately.
Formal letters demanding answers.
From the Bureau of Prisons, the Attorney General, they want the files, the transfer papers, a full explanation for why standard policy meant to protect the public was apparently ignored for Maxwell.
And they're using strong language.
Very strong. Calling it potential witness tampering, suggesting it could be to protect Trump from damaging testimony, or maybe a quid pro quo for more favorable prison conditions.
So, stepping back, what are the wider, broader implications here? Why does this matter beyond the headlines?
Well, first, and maybe most disturbingly, it really undermines victim safety and justice. It minimizes her crimes, potentially re-traumatizes survivors seeing this preferential treatment.
And second,
it erodes the rule of law itself. If high-profile prisoners get special treatment, it shatters public faith in the justice system.
And third, the fact that Epstein files are still being withheld.
Right, the continued withholding flight logs. Communications just fuels suspicion that powerful people are still being protected. Leaves huge questions unanswered. Let's distrust simmer.
And this fight for transparency isn't just happening in Congress. There's actual legal action, too.
Yes. Groups like Democracy Forward are suing. They've filed FOIA requests for those Epstein files, flight logs, client lists, communications involving Epstein, Maxwell, Trump.
And the case is before Judge Tanya Chutkan.
The very same judge handling Trump's D.C. election interference case. Their strategy is bold, skip the trial, go straight to summary judgment, force the government's hand now.
So the big question remains.
Will the most powerful names tied to Epstein ever face public accountability? Or will the paper trail get buried under politics and bureaucracy?
Which is exactly why these deep dives matter. The moment people stop watching.
That's when the most dangerous moves often happen, hoping to bury inconvenient truths. This struggle for transparency is central right now.
Absolutely. And speak of battles over truth, it's not just in government or high-profile cases. Sometimes it gets really weird, frankly absurd. Which brings us to Loomer versus Maher, highlighting the credibility crisis. Battling for truth in the public sphere, this section really shows how vital our institutions are and what happens when their impartiality gets questioned.
It really does. And one striking thing is how something seemingly dry, like economic data, becomes a battleground. Let's talk about the stakes of data, specifically the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS.
Right, your research highlighted this. It's a crucial, nonpartisan office. Gives us vital economic data, unemployment, wages, inflation.
And these numbers aren't academic. They move markets, shape policy, influence how people feel about the economy. The BLS is supposed to be the objective ref, not a political cheerleader.
Its integrity is paramount, essential for financial stability, public trust.
Which brings us to E.J. Antony's background. He's Trump's pick to run the BLS.
And his resume, as you flagged, is, well, very partisan. Chief economist at Heritage Foundation, lots of conservative TV appearances, known for praising Trump policies almost religiously.
Now, having a political view is fine, obviously. But the BLS head isn't supposed to be partisan. It's about objective facts, no matter who's president.
Which makes the January 6th connection so significant.
Exactly. New evidence, as you pointed out, puts Anthony in the crowd at the Capitol on January 6th. Now, let's be clear.
No accusations of violence, no charges.
Correct. But he was undeniably surrounded by people who very much were attacking the Capitol. And, the old saying holds, you're judged by the company you keep.
Especially for a job built on impartiality and credibility. It's more than a footnote. It's a huge question mark about judgment neutrality.
So what about the threat to impartiality? His presence there, plus his reputation for, let's say, creative framing of economic data.
That raises serious concerns about trusting BLS numbers if he's in charge.
Right. Absolutely. Can someone who was in that crowd during an attack on democracy be seen as a neutral arbiter of politically charged facts? That's the core issue.
And you mentioned creative framing. What are some examples?
Well, the material you provided gives specifics, like arguing tariffs would bring jobs back eventually, sort of glossing over the short-term cost increases for businesses and consumers.
Or painting rising prices as temporary while maybe ignoring deeper structural problems suggesting longer-term inflation.
Exactly. It's not just differing economic views. It's about potentially spinning data to fit a narrative, rather than just reporting the numbers objectively, being a cheerleader, not a referee.
And the nightmare scenario. The erosion of public trust.
It's deeply concerning. If Anthony takes over and changes how data is handled, U.S. economic stats could take a nosedive in credibility.
Your sources compared it to the distrust around China's official numbers.
Which is chilling. If investors, policymakers, the public start thinking our data is manipulated, the ripples would be huge. Wall Street to Main Street, interest rates, investment, the dollar's value even.
So the political implications are massive. This confirmation fight will be
brutal. No question. Trump's loyalists want him because he's loyal. They want favorable numbers for the election year.
But moderates, maybe even some Republicans who value accurate data and institutional integrity,
they'll likely push back hard. It's a clash between political convenience and the integrity of a vital nonpartisan body.
So it all boils down to that core question, doesn't it?
Pretty much. Can someone who was part of the crowd on January 6th be trusted to run an office whose entire mission is built on impartiality and credibility?
And the answer affects more than just this nomination. It's about whether we prioritize objective facts over convenient narratives. A high-stakes battle for truth.
Indeed. And speaking of battles for truth getting weird, let's talk about Loomer versus Maher.
Right. The defamation case that took some very strange turns.
It's truly unique. Let's start with the joke that sparked a lawsuit. Laura Loomer, known for her controversial far-right views.
Sued Bill Maher, the comedian.
Over a joke on his HBO show, Real Time, Maher suggested tongue firmly in cheek that Loomer was sleeping with Donald Trump.
Standard comedian defense is, it was obviously a joke. Maher's team tried that.
But then came the twist. The legal significance of groans.
This part is wild. The audience didn't laugh, they groaned.
Apparently, and your research indicates the judge actually latched onto that. Ruled that if the audience didn't laugh, maybe it wasn't clearly a joke.
Wow. So the groan kept the case alive.
Pretty much. Denied Maher's dismissal request. A one-liner and an audience reaction led to months of legal fighting.
Which led to the deposition.
Oh!
The deposition drama, described in your sources as a wild ride, verbal cage matches, head-scratching moments, a really revealing, often uncomfortable look into her world under legal questioning.
And some bombshells came out, like the Trump job offer.
Yeah, Loomer testified under oath Trump personally offered her a campaign job. March 2023 private meeting at Mar-a-Lago.
This is Loomer. Banned from platforms, self-proclaimed proud nationalist, kicked off Uber Eats. And she saw this, apparently, as her big break, like becoming the next Jen Psaki or Karine Jean-Pierre. And she blames Maher's joke for tanking those prospects.
The deposition also dredged up the MTG feud.
Right, the drama with Marjorie Taylor Greene, it became part of the record again. Stemming from Loomer's post saying the White House would smell like curry if Harris became president.
Even MTG said that was too far, which is saying something.
And Loomer fired back with really personal insults about Greene's private life, the whole Arby's in your pants thing. It shows the raw personal nature of these exchanges now on the record.
And it got even uglier, didn't it? vulgar and personal exchanges.
Maher's lawyer really went after her, grilled her about graphic comments allegedly made about VP Harris' specific body parts. Loomer denied referring to those parts.
The lawyer pushed back hard.
Called her a coward when she resisted. Your sources noted how unusual this was. Depositions are usually professional, but this felt like a WWE promo. Just raw aggression.
So what's the bigger lesson here? Your sources mention the play stupid games, win stupid prizes principle.
It's a perfect illustration. File a defamation suit. You open your entire public record to cross-examination. Every tweet, every feud is fair game.
And often, the process does more damage to your reputation than the original alleged insult.
Exactly. That's why many high-profile people, even Trump sometimes, think twice before suing. Discovery can be brutal, revealing far more about the plaintiff.
So regardless of how the Loomer case ends,
She's definitely turned a fleeting late-night joke into a public spectacle, amplified it into this long drama that, ironically, revealed way more about her than about Maher's joke.
a real backfire, potentially. A public spectacle created by the lawsuit itself.
A testament to the unpredictable nature of seeking justice in the public eye.
Okay, this brings us to a really fundamental constitutional issue and the legal fights over presidential power. We're getting into the battle for presidential boundaries, power, military, and law.
Right, and to understand this, you need the context of the Posse Comitatus Act, a constitutional guardrail.
Passed way back when.
1878, right after the Civil War and Reconstruction. Born from fears that federal troops would stay in the South, basically policing civilians.
Its core idea is simple.
Very. The U.S. military fights wars, defends against foreign threats. It doesn't patrol American streets, police protests, or intimidate blue states. And crucially, it's a criminal statute. Violating it carries criminal penalties. That's key to the current fight.
So let's look at Trump's pushback. Presidential authority versus legal limits. This is playing out in the Trump Posse Comitatus trial.
Yeah, California is suing the Trump administration, alleging illegal use of the military on U.S. soil against U.S. citizens.
And Trump's defense. Your sources call it the too bad, so sad defense.
It's audacious. His lawyers argue California can't sue us over this because it's a criminal law, and they claim the president can't be criminally prosecuted for it because of the Supreme Court's Trump v. United States decision.
So they're saying because he can't be criminally charged, the law doesn't apply to a civil lawsuit against him.
Essentially, yes. We can't be held criminally accountable, so the law is irrelevant in this civil context. It's a bold move.
How did the judge react? Judge Charles Breyer.
He was clearly troubled by this, said if Trump's team was right, Posse Comitatus becomes a legal scarecrow standing there looking official, but totally useless.
No real power to stop misuse of the military.
Exactly. A judge worried this interpretation gets a fundamental safeguard for civil liberties.
And the judge also pointed out the Alice in Wonderland logic here.
He did. Said Trump's argument turns its original intent upside down. The act was meant to prevent using troops for domestic law enforcement.
But Trump's team is flipping it, arguing the president must use troops to enforce laws, especially in states he dislikes.
That's the gist. Your sources call it opening a constitutional Pandora's box, a dangerous path for any president to send troops based on a vague emergency with little oversight. Chilling.
They also tried another angle, right? The willfulness escape hatch.
Yeah, arguing violations require willfulness, and everyone believed they were acting lawfully, so no violation.
But what was the basis for that belief?
Good question. The general who testified couldn't point to any constitutional source for the supposed exception justifying the deployment. If that logic holds, the law is toothless. Just say, we thought it was fine, and bypass the check on power.
And the judge kept asking that one key question.
Where are the limits? Repeatedly asked Trump's lawyer, and got no real answer. They couldn't define a scenario where this claimed authority wouldn't apply.
Which is dangerous territory.
Incredibly. If the law doesn't draw a line and the president won't self-restrain, what stops misuse? Just unchecked discretion. Your sources use the analogy like trusting a fox not to eat the chickens, a real threat to the balance of power.
And then came Trump's self-sabotage. Actions during trial. The timing was just, wow.
It's extraordinary. Right as this trial is starting, your research shows, Trump extended the deployment of federalized National Guard troops in Los Angeles for 90 days, taking it straight through Election Day.
Talk about undermining your own case.
It was, as your sources put it, like gift-wrapping California's argument for the judge. A key question is the likelihood of future violations.
And Trump basically answered it with his actions during the trial.
Exactly. It's like being on trial for bank robbery. And while the jury's out, you rob another bank and hold a press conference about it. Remarkable, almost defiant.
Does this fit a larger pattern?
Absolutely. It's classic the Roy Cohn playbook. Characterizes Trump's legal history. Never defend, always attack, never admit wrongdoing, treat every legal limit as a dare.
That consistent argument. The courts can't tell the president what to do if he declares an emergency.
A theme Judge Breyer clearly saw and seemed to really dislike, a direct challenge to the judiciary's role as a check.
So what are the future implications? Breyer is reserving decision.
Taking his time. But if he rules against Trump, an appeal to the Ninth Circuit is almost guaranteed. Lose there, straight to the Supreme Court.
This could be huge.
A landmark case that could set a major precedent about presidential power, shaping the executive-judicial balance for decades, long after this administration.
So the bottom line is?
Immense. Goes way beyond California or Trump. It's about whether a president can use the military as a domestic police force, basically at will, and if courts can stop them.
If Trump wins, posse comitatus is just history.
Effectively, a relic, a history book footnote, powerless in reality. If Breyer rules against him and it's upheld, it reaffirms one of the bedrock principles of American democracy.
The military stays out of civilian law enforcement unless Congress explicitly says so.
Exactly. The outcome here will echo for a long, long time, defining executive power in the Republic.
And that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Wow, we've covered a lot. From that complex web of elite connections, influence, status as currency, the darker side of leveraging royalty.
To the critical battles over information integrity, public trust, seeing credibility under fire, even absurd court cases.
And finally, these fundamental legal challenges about presidential power, the military's role here at home, defining those boundaries.
And the key thing, as the material showed, is these aren't just separate stories floating around.
No, they're connected, like windows into how power really works.
Yeah, this constant push and pull. Authority versus accountability. It shapes politics, business, maybe history itself. The threads we pulled show this ongoing negotiation of boundaries. What's allowed, who really holds power, often behind the scenes.
So as we wrap up, maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder. What are the real costs? To trust, to democratic institutions, when those lines influence personal gain, legal limits get dangerously blurred.
And, maybe even more importantly, what's our role? As informed citizens. In holding those lines, demanding transparency, pushing for accountability.
No easy answers there, for sure. But really essential questions to keep in mind as you navigate everything going on beyond the headlines.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep questioning assumptions. Always look for different perspectives. The information's out there. Your curiosity is the best tool for understanding.
Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon to unpack another stack of sources and uncover more of those hidden stories that really matter. Until then.
Stay curious, stay informed.